Let's start with a mystery. How can someone spend 10 years becoming a doctor, graduate at the top of their class, save lives every single day, and still be terrible with money? How can an engineer who designs billion-dollar systems struggle to build a simple emergency fund? How can a successful lawyer earn more in 1 month than some families earn in a year and still live paycheck to paycheck? At first, it doesn't make sense. We like to believe that intelligence naturally leads to financial success, but it doesn't. Because money doesn't reward intelligence, it rewards behavior. And those are two very different things. Think about learning to drive. Reading the manual doesn't make us good drivers. Hours behind the wheel do. Money works the same way. Many of us spend years studying mathematics, science, literature, or law. Very few of us spend even 1 year learning how to make financial decisions under pressure. So when our income increases, we don't suddenly become wiser. We simply get more expensive opportunities to repeat the same habits. That's why two people with identical salaries can end up in completely different places 20 years later. One quietly builds investments. The other quietly builds obligations. One buys assets that create future choices. The other buys liabilities that demand future income. The difference isn't IQ, it's patterns. Now here's the part that surprised researchers studying human decision-making. When emotions are involved, highly intelligent people don't necessarily make better choices. Sometimes they become better at justifying bad ones. We tell ourselves the purchase is deserved because we've worked hard. We convince ourselves the monthly payment is manageable because future raises will cover it. We label emotional spending as an investment in happiness. Our intelligence doesn't protect us. Sometimes it helps us create more convincing excuses. And modern life makes that even easier. Advertisements aren't really selling products, they're selling identities. The watch promises status, the car promises respect, the house promises success, the holiday promises a life worth envying. But objects can't permanently satisfy emotional needs. Eventually, the excitement fades, the payment remains. That's why some of the wealthiest looking people are quietly under enormous financial pressure. And some of the least flashy people are building remarkable financial security behind the scenes. They've discovered a secret that isn't taught in most classrooms. Looking wealthy and becoming wealthy are often opposite activities. One requires spending, the other usually requires patience. Imagine two neighbors. Every time one receives extra income, he upgrades his lifestyle. Every time the other receives extra income, she quietly invests in her future. For years, the first neighbor appears more successful, nicer car, better clothes, more impressive vacations. But then something interesting happens. Time begins to magnify their choices. The investments start producing opportunities. The savings create flexibility. Unexpected setbacks become manageable instead of devastating. The gap widens. Not because one person was smarter, because one person's habits compounded in a different direction. That's the word we rarely appreciate enough. Compounding. Most people think compounding only applies to investments. In reality, habits compound too. Stress compounds. 3 discipline compounds. Debt compounds. Knowledge compounds. Trust compounds. Every repeated action becomes easier to repeat again. So the question isn't whether our habits are shaping our future. They already are. The question is whether they're building the future we actually want. Perhaps the greatest financial advantage isn't earning another degree, it's learning to pause before automatic decisions, to separate wants from needs, to value freedom more than appearances, to understand that every dollar spent today can no longer work for tomorrow, and maybe that's the biggest surprise of all. Financial success isn't reserved for geniuses. It's often built by ordinary people who consistently make slightly better decisions than they did yesterday. Not perfect decisions. Better ones. Because over months, years, and decades, those tiny improvements become extraordinary outcomes. So if we've ever believed that intelligence alone guarantees wealth, it's worth letting go of that belief today. Money isn't a test of IQ. It's a test of habits, and habits can change, which means our future can change too. In our next conversation, we'll explore an even stranger question. Why do some people who start with almost nothing end up building extraordinary wealth, while others who start with every advantage never do? Until then, let's keep asking better questions, making wiser decisions, and building a future we'll be proud to leave behind. This is The Risk Project, and we're only just beginning.